So I was going through your profile, and I find that you have taken some time to become an entrepreneur. Basically, you are a student of QSAT, and
Yes.
then you went on to different industries, mainly IT
Sure.
industry. So this is a very tough call, basically, because being from Kerala,
Hmm.
which is normally people are very risk averse.
Hmm.
But even then, you have gone out and worked with some leading companies. But that crucial decision
Hmm.
to go ahead with, like you took, I mean, 2 years ago only you started off here on your own, isn't it? So that vital decision
Hmm.
to go ahead and start something on the own, how did that come up? What was the background that enabled you to, or the experiences that actually took you to this new venture?
Sure. And just before I start off, I would also like to introduce Girish, who is
Yes.
my co-founder as a partner. So, and I will tell about myself first, and then I'll give Girish to talk
Yes.
about
Yeah.
2 minutes. So, my name is Rakesh. I'm founder of Scopin.com, and I come with 20 years of corporate experience. So I started my career with Tata Consultancy Services, mechanical engineer by professional qualification. Then I was there as a technologist in TCS for about 6 years and decided to move on. I was in UK at that point of time, working with Aviva Life Insurance for, TCS, and I was working under IBM at that point of time. Came back and felt like I need to move faster in my life, faster than what my organization was able to kind of, help me with. I moved on to a very small organization. So basically, it was a migration that at that point of time itself, the entrepreneurial spirit has already kicked in me, right? So the courage to go ahead and go from a 40,000 member or employed company to a 40 employed company is what the first step that I took in that direction of becoming an entrepreneur. So I consider that probably is the starting point of my entrepreneurship, even though I was employed, right? Probably it was there in my genes somewhere. I don't know what it is, but I was never settling down for anything, what I was getting. And I really wanted to fast track. That's been my career all throughout. If you see my career, that's how it's built. So next 5 years, I was with this company called Sumeru Software Solutions, which is, which which comes under Art of Living Foundation. I was there for 5 years. When I came out in 2012, I was handling almost all the MNC banks in India and their non-core operations, right? So I shifted myself from a technologist to an operations person in the second stint. So by 12th year of my career, I was pretty much kind of tuned on to both technology as well as operations. So that was my basic. Then I moved on to start on my own. So my entrepreneurship starts right in 2012, which is 8 years back. I started as a consultant, and I was consulting for the company called Vyoma Technologies. Vyoma Technologies is digital advertisement company based in Bangalore, run by Sriranka Sudhagara. And that's a company who has got maximum screens shared with Indian Railways. If you go to any Indian Railways, right from Trivandrum to, Patna to Delhi, Mumbai, you will see that a vertical screen is put up on the ticketing counter. So that's put up by this company, and I was fortunate to be the chief operating officer for that company for a year. Then I moved on to co-found another company which is in healthcare segment, and that's my actual start as an entrepreneur. As a co-founder. 4 years I was there in that company, and I learned the tricks and trades of being an entrepreneur. You name it, I've played all the roles, right from being a partner to the marketing person to the technologist, operations, and an investor. I've played all the roles, and I've gone through all the tough situations that any entrepreneur could go through, right? Including losing all what you have and then needing to rebuild everything right from the scratch. So 2017, I felt like it's time for me to start on my own. And I brushed up an idea which was there in me pretty long back, like 10, 15 years back when I was in TCS, when I saw that something was wrong with the training industry, even at that point of time. there was an instance where I required a training at just when I was just into TCS, and then I had to wait for another 5 years to get that training done, just because I was not senior enough in the organization, but I was ready for it mentally. So that gap is something which I couldn't conceive. So I felt something is wrong with the training industry, and I started following this industry very closely. So the genesis dates back 18 years, not 2 or 3 years, you know. So by the time I was ready in 2017, I had done enough research in this industry to understand that this industry needs an overhauling, and someone has to really take a step towards it. And I was not seeing any player coming and doing it. Even in 2017, a lot of players were there in the edtech segment. Edtech segment is primarily the K-12 segment, whether it is in the area of technology for exams, technology for all these online classes. All these things have already started, but nobody was really thinking about training as a segment where they need to do something about it. Probably because it's an unorganized segment, and it is people come and go. It's a visiting space. Anyone can become a trainer. There's no professional qualifications required. So too many things were driving that, and I really felt that I should do something about it. And that's when on June 4th, 2017, I wrote an article in LinkedIn. It was my learning based on multiple research reports that I've gone through, including Ken Research 2012 and Kotak research, which are authentic research done on Indian training industry. Very few research reports are there on Indian training industry. I went through it to figure out that this is a potential $32 billion industry. And in 2012, it was just under $2 billion. So the scope was almost, 15 times. And 2012, they had predicted that by 2020, this industry will become a $20 billion year on year. Now we are standing exactly in 2020. And when I look back, I feel very, very, intrigued to understand that we are nowhere close to $20 billion. We still probably 5 to 6 or maybe max $10 billion, the best estimate. So nobody has been able to explore this market is the fundamental truth. And this is a blue ocean market. It's a white space, basically. Unlike an edutech segment where we have, a $1 billion company to a very small level companies who's trying to do something in that segment. But train tech is one area under the education knowledge sector, which is not really, nobody has really thought about automating that particular thing or getting in technology. And we are the first people to think about getting technology into training space. So Scoopin primarily is a technology company driving the training, enabling the training industry to become much more efficient. Now, the question that you have asked, like, when the article which I wrote in the LinkedIn today is one of the most trending articles in that particular segment. And if you go and type Indian training industry on Google, you will find that the article tops in the first 2-3 lineups. So that's the importance that it has got, but nobody has been able to crack that code. So we really did something about it. And 2017, after writing that blog, I started forming a community of trainers. I didn't start with technology because I knew that technology was always there with me. I could anyway take it, whenever it is required. But unless I understand the pains and problems of the training industry, I'm not going to be able to solve anything, right? Just creating anything what I feel is required and putting it is not going to work out. So I need to understand the problems and pains, and that is when I met Girish. Girish is a stalwart in the training industry. He has been there in the industry for quite a long time. I would probably request Girish to kind of introduce himself, and then we will move on.
Yeah, I'll be
welcome,
very,
Girish.
Oh, thank you so much, Kumar. So I started off my career as in sales with GlaxoSmithKline Pharmaceuticals, 12-13 years of sales and management experience, and then I moved to training in a company called Max Life Insurance. And after that, I had a stint in Kotak. And then finally, before quitting active employment and doing things on my own, I had my last stint as an AVP Learning and Development in a company called Invest India Micro Pensions. And in 2015, the company closed down the South operations because of a change in the regulations. And that's when I thought that I will start doing trainings on my own, because I had enough experience in doing training and development. And then I started off as a freelancer. And that's when I actually found out that it's not very easy being a freelancer. No, you may be good in your domain, but nobody knows that you're good in your domain. And how do you connect to the corporates to show that you are good is a very big task, which most of the trainers are actually failing to actually do it. They may be good, but they do not know how to sell or market themselves. And that's where we had a chance meeting with Rakesh, wherein he was trying to bring technology into the training space. I have no idea about technology, but I know exactly how the training industry works. I know the pains of every trainer and what are the pains that he really undergoes. So the blending of technology from Rakesh and the domain expertise from my side is how Scoopin actually came into what it is today. So that's in short about me and how we came together and how we started working together.
So that's great. Two founders, one having a very corporate training kind of the expertise and the other person with a technology expertise. Do you think that is the core strength of Scoopin?
That definitely is a core strength. And just to add to it, I myself am a trainer. I take trainings for the trainers in business management. So that way, I have built my acumen in the training as well in last 3 years. It's not my career as such, but then 3 years I've built it in such a way that I also personally run business boot camps for trainers. So I kind of understand the pain to the trainer to that extent that I'm a trained trainer as well. So all these things mixed up together has really created the right recipe for us to take it forward.
Okay, so now the two questions that come to my mind is, one is, anybody can, I understand that anybody can join your module, what you call that Scoopin. Any trainer can actually create a login and then become. But how do you assess the quality of the trainer? Because you are connecting the trainer with the service, the companies, corporates
Correct.
who really want that service. So
Very
is there
true.
any mechanism by which you evaluate the quality of the trainer and then pass it on to the corporate who will be using their services?
Yeah, a very good question actually. Let me give a background to this question. First, this has been our thought process to start with when we started, that we have to give quality trainers and we have to filter out the quality trainers and give them to the corporates. What we have really figured out is it is not just the quality alone which actually makes this industry work. There are multiple things, including the cost, the quality, the availability, okay, of the trainer. These three things actually combined together makes a training happen. Apart from these three things, there is another very critical aspect which runs the training industry, which is the market connect. So what is missing now is a company might be having a requirement, okay, and a person might be an appropriate trainer might be staying just a kilometer away from the company, but the company doesn't know that this trainer exists, and this trainer doesn't know that this requirement is there. So what company does, because of their earlier connects, they will call up few people and figure out, okay, who is there in the industry, because it's very urgent, right? It's not time bound, and suddenly someone will be named. And because the HR doesn't have the time to go and really search, or the mechanism to search for the right trainer in the vicinity, they might end up getting the similar quality trainer from a place which is outside their location. So one from a different state, probably. I've seen many times it happening. So that what gets added to that, the flight charges or the train charges and the stay and accommodation. So effectively that entire exercise becomes such a big leakage that people have literally kind of scattered, and there is a huge leakage in the industry. So what happens is cost makes a big difference in this. Another thing is every single trainer, whether it's a trainer who has just come into the system or a very seasoned trainer with 20 years of experience, everyone has got some knowledge, some concept to share with some segment of society. The segment might change, but the fact remains that the knowledge remains. And most of these trainers become trainer after 5, 10, 15 years of experience. So no way we are anyone to judge any trainer who comes into play. We by default think that every trainer has got something to give to some section of the cross section of the society. So this is the fundamental driving philosophy for Scoopin. which is why we are able to kind of expand our horizon, because we don't discriminate between one trainer and the other, or judge between one trainer and another simply based on a star rating, because we don't believe in that. Okay, we have seen some trainers not being able to deliver on some topic but does an excellent job in another topic, and vice versa. So what we are doing is, our job is not to create a mechanism to rate a trainer, but our job is to create enough opportunity that any trainer can finally get his deserving market. So basically we call it as connecting trainers with a deserving market, and that is the variable we want to leave it, because let the market play by itself to figure out who they want to go with. Because there are trainers, we have seen trainers who are ready to take right from 1,000 rupees a day to trainers who charge nothing less than 50,000 a day, right? So who are we to judge in between? What is the quality? It is the market who needs to decide, and our job is to enable the market connect, and that's where you are using the technology. So how do we use that? This is a preface which I wanted to give you to your question. Now coming to your actual question, how do we do that? What we do is, first and foremost thing is, we believe that trainers needs to come out of this 2-pager CV concept. So what's happening in the industry is, they go with this 2-pager PDF CV, they go to an HR, and anyone who receives a CV in a 2-pager PDF, immediately the person gets a feeling that this is a job seeker, while he's a trainer with 15, 20, 25 years of experience. So suddenly he is looked down upon as a job seeker, and everything wrong starts in a wrong foot. His negotiation power is gone, everything is gone. Finally, it's all about a job. Do you want this job? We have this job to offer. We simply don't want that to happen with the trainers, because we respect trainer community a lot because of the knowledge that they carry, but it's not been explored. Now, what we are doing is, we are changing the concept of 2-pager CV to a digital portfolio system. So here what happens is, a trainer will be able to create his profile with social proof, which means he will have a trainer profile which will tell about his competencies, his specializations, and his languages that he can take, everything with respect to a training delivery. Then there is another section called credentials, which is all about the awards or publications, all those things which will add to his credentials, his education and things like that. Then comes the trainings that he has taken, events. So we have an area where people can go and upload all the events, all the trainings that they have taken in the past, from any year back to the current trainings and in the future trainings. So what happens is, with the photograph, wherever photograph is available, what happens is, anyone who comes and sees that immediately understand that this guy has done it, this person has already done it. You don't need any other proof. Then it is up to the person who sees it to decide, okay, this person has done in these areas for these clients, and he has done in these specialization. It looks like this is the person who I wanted, without going with that star rating. That is one. Then, and one more very innovative step that we have taken is, we are getting all the trainers to start writing blogs. For the first time across the world, I have not seen a blogging system for trainers alone. Because what we believe is, trainers talks a lot. They love to talk. They can talk for 8 hours, 9 hours continuously for many days, but hardly any trainers writes. So that's a medium which they have not explored. So what we are telling trainers is, okay, you write your blogs. That is the best way to communicate casually with any official, setup communication that you want to make. For example, if you want to have that softer aspect of you communicated to an organization, you can send your profile. They will see everything that you have done, and you will also see a blog of yours. Suddenly they'll see the blog, and your personality will reflect in the blog. Whatever you try to kind of do at the end of the day, blog cannot hide your real personality. Something will come out of it which will connect the corporate with you, because it's at the personal level that the connect happens. The trust has to be built. So we use blog as a means to build that trust. Rest of the credibility is to kind of support that whole thing. This is the innovative means by which we have come up with profiling. This is the fundamental of scoping. And we got inspired with profiling systems like LinkedIn, which is for professionals. We thought, okay, a lot of trainers there on LinkedIn, but then it is not like a trainer cannot be distinguished in LinkedIn as such, right? it's not trainer specific profiling system. So we thought, okay, let Scoopin be the profiling system for the trainers. And that's how the genesis of Scoopin came into picture. That's what we are doing in Scoopin.
All right.
And one more thing here is what we are giving. The camera is stuck.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So one additional point here is very, very important point. What we are trying to do with this digital profiling system, it's very important. We are creating websites for trainers. So trainers are struggling to have their own websites because they are individual players and freelancers. They need to have some, apart from the social media presence, like apart from having a Facebook page and LinkedIn page or any other Instagram page, which is a page in their system, but it's not about them per se, right? It's about their community. Now we thought, okay, let's have a place where they can profile themselves in full. Okay. We thought, okay, having a mini website for all the trainers is the best way to go about it, because the trainers can't spend too much of money on building and maintaining a website. Then they need to spend at least 25,000 rupees to create a website, but that's only the start. After that, if you need to sustain that website in the public, you need to spend at least 20,000 rupees every month on digital marketing expenses, bare minimum. Where will the trainer pay this? They don't have a means. So we thought, okay, let's use technology. We profile is there with us. We will get the website out of the profile and give it back to them at a very, very nominal cost. So it is a very win-win situation for trainer where their entire profile gets managed through a technology at an extremely low cost that they can ever think of. That's how we create value in the system.
Okay. So you also talk about your solution as a marketplace. So is there any bidding process actually taking place? Say a company offers this amount and some trainer catches on to it, or some trainer offers a particular package of fees, and then it is accepted by, so is that process that is going on?
All right. Thank you for that question again. See, our marketplace works in this way. A corporate can put up their requirements live, okay, and the system will automatically tag that requirement to appropriate trainers based on the specialization that match. Okay, so if a corporate is required to put very specifically, these are the things that I'm looking for, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we already have a database where it says this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is there for this trainer. Immediately the system matches within a split of microseconds that profile gets matched, and we don't send the profile to the corporate because we are talking about thousands of profiles. So there is no way corporate can again go through the thousands of profiles and what happens is the corporate will put up the requirement will come and sit with the trainers. Every trainer will see where which is the latest requirement pertaining to their competencies. They, based on when the requirement is and where the requirement is and probably how much the payment is, they will be able to go and apply for it. So which means the first criteria, the major criteria of self-selection happens over there, right? So the filter happens right at the beginning. So if there are 100 trainers whose profile matches with the requirement, probably 5-6 people will come forward because the rest of the people either might not be there in that location, or they might not be free on that particular day, or the cost might not be working with them. So market itself filters. That 5-6 cream of the people will come and sit with the corporate, and it becomes a very simple job for corporate to then call up and then kind of take it forward. That is the ease at which we want to take the technology enabled for this industry. And here we don't take a cut from the money that the corporate the trainer makes. Our model is not like a training company. A training company is typically performance a model of taking a cut from the deal, right? Since we are not a training company, we don't do that. It's not a bad thing and we should be so thankful for all the training companies across the country who has been holding the fort for last so many years, decades. They are the people who have really been trying to map the demand with the supply and then make things moving. But time has come when the Skill India mission is at its peak and we want 500 million workforce to be trained, and every month we need 12 million workforce coming in which need to be trained, and we don't have infrastructure for more than 3 million workforce to be trained. So in this current situation, and especially with the new economic policy, new education policy also have come in, things have to drastically change, not in a very small pace. We don't have time. 2022 is when the government of India wanted to skill 500 million workforce, right? And we are not sure where we are standing, and the NSDC is playing a major role in that. We know that about 48,000 trainers are there with NSDC as on today, and they are being deployed at all levels. But still, we need more power, and that can happen only when private players like us, or organizations or community like us, come forward and give our bit of service to the ecosystem. So that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay. So another aspect I wanted to explore is what are the skills actually corporates are looking for to train their employees? Is there any common pattern, or are our schools and colleges not able to ensure that kind of soft skills or whatever management skills, whatever is lacking in them? So do you think that that gap will always be there, even if we implement the new education policy, we bring all the innovative kind of learning methodologies, but still the corporates will find that there will be something lacking? That is what we assume, isn't it? Is that the way that you are looking at the whole problem?
I would request Girish to put in his thoughts first, and then I'll add to it.
Great.
I think, currently how corporates are working on the training industry is, most of them do not take it really very seriously. They just make it a HR activity. That is, you need to do 3 or 4 trainings in a year, and if your tick mark is there, then you are eligible for some things, or you are not eligible for something. So nobody is taking this very seriously, for the simple reason that you are not able to identify the right kind of trainers and impart the right kind of training which is happening. So that should change completely. Training cannot be just a HR activity wherein they just tick mark something. It has to be completely based on the developmental needs of the particular individual or the organization at that point of time. So unless that changes, and that's where Skopin's role comes very significantly, because we are able to map the right kind of trainer for the right kind of need to the right organization, so that the development is also seen happening in the right manner. And as you said, even in schools and colleges, I am sure that in the coming years, there will be something which happens wherein the developmental needs of the child and the training abilities of the teachers will also be marked, and see what kind of trainings, what kind of methodology has to be used. So that's where we are going to play a very, very significant role. And that's what Indian training industry is lacking in that aspect only, because we have not considered it as something which can bring change. We have considered it something which has to be done for the sake of doing it, and it's only a tick mark in most of the organization. I'm not saying all, but most, and that has to change.
Okay, but basically, what are the corporates looking for from the trainers? Is there any set of skills that they find lacking in their managers or executives, whichever category?
Absolutely. See, at different levels, if you're looking at the management cadre, most of the organizations just promote people based on their performance. But do they have the skills of managing their people? They don't have. And that's where they look into maybe training organizations or internal trainers who can actually train these people for those particular skills. So at every level, be it management or be it any technical skills, there is a specific need which is there. And if you are able to identify the need properly and get the right kind of trainer, yes, things can change in the right direction. And that's why most of the organizations also are failing, because they just, if it is a sales organization, they promote people based on sales. They don't know whether they have the management skills or people management skills. And that's where training can play a very, very significant role.
Great. I would like to add to this very, very significant points that Girish has made. If you see what is required in the go forward situation is we need to come to a point where the content plays the major role, right? Now, so far, it's been the players behind the content who is taking the major role, whether it is a training company or the trainers. The delivery people used to take the lead role, right? Now, with the digitization of the whole world, we have an option to make everything content centric, which means if an organization needs a content, needs a training for on a specific content, it should be available at the split of a second. At the click of a button, it should be available. That is the fundamental change which is required now, which currently is not the case. They still have to kind of go for all the portfolios to multiple people and figure out who can take it. That should not be the way. It should be you click and you get the content popped. You say that, okay, now who are there to take this content? Immediately it should be available. That is the way things have to start moving. So for example, I'll tell you what we are doing for our country is we are creating another, I would say, to just put it in a very simple manner, another Udemy for India. Okay. So we have this Udemy for US and European market, and many people in India are learning from it. But frankly speaking, that's not a system which is conducive for the Indian culture and the Indian education methods. One very interesting thing that came up in our recent study when we talked to people, especially the trainers, is how many of you have got, when we asked to people, have you got your course put up in Udemy? And most of the trainers would say no. Okay, but Udemy is a brand. From outside, it looks like, okay, it's full of lot of trainers, in the country, but that's with US crowd or with UK crowd. They are there in that, but Indian trainers have still not been able to connect with that particular system because the cultural aspect and a lot of aspect with respect to Udemy doesn't relate with Indian context, the way we have been taught and where we have been teaching, especially coming to the vernacular space. It's an English dominated space. Now, what we are doing is we are creating, and we have recently, about a month back, we launched India's largest online academy for trainers. So Scoopin, the story of Scoopin of profiling system is one story, and we have got another story, which is the Trainers Academy. Trainers Academy is the talking point now among the trainers. And in last 1 month, we have trained 150 trainers, certified 150 trainers to become e-trainers, which means the trainers has been doing instructor-led training with audience in front of them. They know the best how to do that. They're all trained trainers on that. But when the COVID came, the pandemic came, all of a sudden, all those opportunities are gone down the drain. And suddenly the only opportunity which is there, is the e-learning opportunities, like teaching like this. And the trainers don't have a clue of how to do that. Many people have experimented and come out of it, but vast majority of the people are sitting at the bay thinking, how do I do that? How do I start? Where do I start? I don't know how to teach without seeing the audience. I've never done that in my life before. They are in a struggle. So what we thought was, let's crack that problem now first. We created a Trainers Academy where the trainers can convert all their training materials into e-courses. We trained the trainer with 4-day program, a very intensive 4-day program, where we train them on how to create their videos, how to create their introduction, how to create their contents, and how to conclude in such a way that every single module sells by itself. The value that we are adding is when they are good at their content, we are good at the marketing part of it. So we add the marketing element to it. The introduction is a pure marketing video, which they don't know how to make because they've never done marketing and sales in their lifetime. If they do the introduction video of an e-course, just like the way they always talk, it will never get solved. So we give them the idea of how to make it very interesting, where to start, where to end. That way we have created a TTT, a Train the Trainer program on becoming a certified e-trainer. And that will take care of the offline e-course creation and the learning part of it, connecting to that market or part of it. Then we are also taking training on how to conduct a training in Zoom or any of these online medias, how to engage, how to use different tools like Mentimeters and, how to use polls in Zoom. These small things make a big difference for them. It appears very small just because they don't know it, it's a big deal. So we are working on the fundamentals. 150 trainers have been trained in last 1 month. If anyone is telling that COVID has been a down period for them, we would say there are opportunities, please explore, and you will be able to do that. And now we are in the mission to create the first 5,000 trainers across India who are E-certified. Many of our E-certified trainers have already started getting jobs just because they are certified and they can actually do it. So many success stories are coming up. And this is the range at which we want to work. This is about the corporate. When you asked how corporate can take advantage of thing, we believe that e-courses are going to make a big difference in the coming days. So they can be their first layer of education, wherein they buy e-courses from the trainers, put it on to the employees, say that go and read it yourself at your pace, self-learn. Then as and when you have completed it as a group, we will invite the trainer to come and take care of your question answers. So that becomes a double learning, layered learning, and that becomes sealed onto the employees, and the value addition will be much more higher. Not only that, since the e-course is already with them, they can always go and refresh, renew. It is not one-time activity anymore. That is the behavioral change we want to bring into the corporates. Now coming to the new education policy, it's a very, very interesting topic that you put across, that how these things are going to really kind of merge together. If you see the current earlier education policy, it was highly the demand centric, or I wouldn't even say demand centric. It was pushed on to the learners, right? The students don't have a choice what they learn. But today, if you see, it has moved out from a 10+2 structure to a 5+3+3+4 structure, which means no more the students are going to think education as, okay, let me complete 12th and then we'll see what to do next. That days are going to be gone. Now it is going to be until graduation they are going to think about. Right from the first standard, they'll think about the graduation. That is one beautiful thing that has come up, right? It becomes a continuous education. There's no break. Second, very important thing is it is learner centric. The education, earlier there were no exit options. Now you never put exited out of it. If you are in science stream, you simply have to take it and then go through that struggle. If you don't like, still you go ahead and write the exams and finally somehow come out of the education and then do whatever you want. So you are locked until your graduation is completed, which is a clean 5 to 7 years of their life, which is 10% of an average person's life. That is going to be dismantled now. Now the new policy will ensure that the people can tweak, they can exit anytime, they can change the course. That flexibility is going to come in. That is very important. Then comes the standards, like all these things were all in Indian context all this while, but now we are going to compete with the global standards. Globally, this is like the advanced countries follow this thing. So to say, Finland, I think, is one of the most advanced in terms of the education policies, and we are slowly gearing up to that kind of education systems, which again is a great thing. Then the other important thing about new education policy is pertaining to training industry. Let me come to the training industry, right? How a trainer is different from a teacher. If you analyze this point, you will see that a teacher is someone who takes a curriculum. Whether the teacher likes what is there inside the curriculum or not, he has to take it. He has to make sure that the students take an exam on that. Whether the students like the exam or not, they have to take it, and finally the mark is all what is left out for you to remember, right? If you ask me, go back to your 5th standard or 4th standard or 8th standard and remember what you learned in civics or geography or whichever subject which I never liked, I'll not be able to do that. And how about all those number of years that I spent in learning it? How if I could have devoted it for something else which I was interested in? I would have been a different person altogether, right? So now when it comes to that is about the teacher. Now let's take the case of a trainer. When trainer comes into picture, trainer is extremely good at capsulizing large amount of information in a very small concept. He can take 30-minute session to a 30-day session. So so he can take 30 minutes to 30 days for the same concept. So conceptualization has been a fundamental principle of training. Now with new education policy, we are seeing the same thing is being used by the new education policy, the trend which is coming up, wherein you will see, VR is taking over all those, new ways of putting the concept. Byju's have come up with this all concept of how to make a learning in the e-way and also conceptualized learning. That is the change, which means the difference between a teacher and a trainer is going to thin out in coming days, which means a teacher can start taking training, and trainer can start becoming a teacher. And that is the beautiful space, the perfect storm that we can probably think of, which is coming through. That is what Scoopin wants to ride on.
Okay. Now I understand that you are targeting you are connecting the trainers with the corporate world, but you can always also think of connecting your services with the schools and colleges also, because I myself get a lot of calls from various principals asking whether they can get somebody for mentoring in soft skills or communication skills or career guidance. So they are not able to find the right people for that. Some colleges also call for some specific skills. It may be a technical skill or it can be a management skill. And we just ask so many people whom we know, then we may find or we may not find the right person. So actually this can be, I think, extended to schools and colleges as well, the same concept. Do you think that there's a possibility?
In fact, we are already in that space. For us, it's not just the corporate. So our fundamental mission for the trainers is we help trainers to profile, position, connect, collaborate, and make business. Nowhere in this schema of things we are telling it is only from corporate. No, it can be from anywhere. So what happens is trainer on one side as a supply, of the content and delivery. And then we have got corporate, institutes, the training companies, governments, NGOs, and public. So you've got 6 set of people who are going to get benefited out of this. That's the only way we can create a market connect for the trainers. And our focus primarily is on unaccessed market. So a trainer will have a circle of influence, through which they get the trainings always. It's always like that. There are 5-6 people who always will help them to get the trainings. They don't go beyond that. And that is their accessed market. Now that could be, let's say, 2 or 3% of the market, or even lesser than that, just to put a figure, I'm putting 2-3, it will be less than even a percentage, in fact, of the whole market that they can actually grab. So what about the 99% of the market, which is not even, who doesn't know that the trainers exist and whose requirement doesn't come to this trainer either? Both ways it doesn't happen. So our job is to connect this 99% which is out there unaccessed to the trainer. If that can happen only when we focus not just on corporate, but also on the institutes, corporates, institutes, the training companies who already have connects in the market, then networking through the trainers themselves, because one trainer might have a requirement which he can't take, if he can pass it on that one. Then comes the government, of course, the NSDC, all the skill development activities which the government is doing. Then comes the public. Okay, so if you see, we are in that space, like we want to capture all these market. That's when the unaccessed market will be reachable to the trainer. So you're right, we are not just thinking only about corporate, we are thinking about all the aspects of connecting market with the trainers.
And now you are still calling yourself a startup because only 2 years have gone by. But you also need to get out of the being dubbed as a startup also. So that is where scaling and expanding has to take place. So what in your view is the way for a company like Scoopin to go forward? What is the revenue model? Because I find that you can earn revenue only from the corporate side, not from the trainers or other people. You are not expecting
not exactly. So the 2 aspects of the question which I would like to address. The first aspect is, what is our scaling model, right? Fundamentally, our organization is built and supported with the community. So today we are a very, very strong community of more than 10,000 trainers. Okay, and we use all the mediums to connect with the trainers. And we started as a 10-member WhatsApp group 3 years back. Okay, so 10 member to 10,000 members in 3 years. So we definitely don't want to call up anymore as startup unless on a lighter note going to a funder and asking for money, right? So there you need to call yourself as a startup, otherwise you'll not get money. So we just reserve our tag as a startup. We are already an established organization. Okay, we have been supplying trainers in corporates and institutions, and even government segments. Our trainers are already working NSDC trained trainers. So we are in that space, but our primary objective is not to become another training company. So we do it because that's an opportunity for the trainer. We don't want trainers to miss any opportunity. So if anyone comes and asks us, do you have a trainer? We say, of course we have trainers. We are a large community, So today, if you see, our community has grown from 10-member WhatsApp group in 2017 to more than 2,000 member group in WhatsApp alone. Another about 10,000 in LinkedIn. And another 4,000 to 5,000 in Facebook, and apart from that, our community access, which is our own unaccessed market, the connect of our community, you can just simply extrapolate. So it just kind of explodes. That is the stage at which we are in. And how do we make a scalable organization out of this? Because technology is still an enabler for us. Okay. It is primarily driven by the community. Any opportunity in Skupin, this is very important. If all my trainer friends who are hearing out, they can also kind of take cues from it. Any opportunity from within an organization, our organization, to grow is first given to a trainer. Our policy is that we induct only trainers in our organization. So what happens is there are trainers who are good at multiple things. There are trainers who are very good at sales, very good at marketing, trainers who are good at delivery, who are good at taking trainings. All these trainers can come into the system and be a part of this whole movement, and they also start working along with us for a larger cause and not just for their own bread and butter. That way we have a mission that at the end of the day, we want trainers to have both active and passive income. Because if you see, the trainer community has never been looked upon by anybody in the country when it comes to their social security needs. There is no social security for any of the trainers, right? No health policy, no backup, no passive income, nothing of that sort. COVID has really proved it to be right. We were always assuming that, but COVID really proved it right. So we stepped up. We conducted one of the largest WhatsApp webinar when the lockdown started. 24th, Prime Minister announced the lockdown. 30th, we started among our, at that point of time, 1,500 members. Upon our call, 45 trainers came forward, 45 master trainers came forward. For next 60 days until end of May 29th, till May 29th, we ran a WhatsApp webinar, which is every day one trainer will come and teach the rest of the trainers on one concept. We saved the minds and souls and inhibitions of all the trainers for those 2 critical months when the absolute blank was there in front of us. By the time the economy opened up, we stopped it. And after that, we started working on the Trainers Academy, and within next 1 month, we launched it. And today we have got 150. So that's been the kind of growth that we saw. From when things went in a downward mode, we went in an upward mode. And that happened only because we had community with us. And in our community, any trainer can, so we are making leaders out of our trainers. We believe that every trainer is an entrepreneur by himself. It's a half entrepreneur because they have decided to come out of their comfort zone or be on their own. Only thing is they call themselves as freelance trainers, which we ask them not to call them as a freelance trainer. Become a solopreneur, then migrate to an entrepreneur, create impact in the society, not just for their clients. Think beyond clients. That's when trainers will start becoming a business. That's when trainers will start becoming a business by themselves. So we have this program where we train trainers to become entrepreneurs. So it's called EFT, Entrepreneurship for Trainers. I myself, being an entrepreneur, I took the lead, and I have been before COVID, I've been conducting these boot camps in multiple states. So we have traveled to between Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune. We have traveled across the places to take trainings for the trainer on how to become an entrepreneur, or how to shy away from doing, not shy away from doing sales. how to do fearless sales, fundamentals, because of which they're stuck in their career. Many people go back to their regular job just because this support is not given to them. So that is how we take it forward. Yeah.
So I understand that you are not a usual kind of entrepreneur. You both of you, even Girish also.
Yeah,
Because you
Girish
think
is
differently.
gone. 1 minute.
Oh,
Girish has
okay.
gone off. Girish, you're
No,
there?
I'm there. The charge is almost getting
Okay.
up. That I was just trying to put it on. Yeah.
Can you put it on screen? You put it now? Now it is fine?
It is there, but I'll have to put it on charge. It's okay. I'll manage.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there.
So you can ask the question once again. So sorry.
Yeah, see, I find that going by what you have said, you think differently from other kind of startups or entrepreneurs. You are getting too much involved, not too much, like very much involved in the industry, understanding that problem from both sides when you are connecting to different categories of people. I think you have given a very important lesson through this video itself for the management, new kind of MBAs or IIM grads or engineering grads who are looking for ideas to start something. Basically, what happens is many startups create something and they end up with dead end. They can't go beyond a particular obstacle because there are no takers for that. But I find that you are finding new ways by which you can engage both the community that you are stakeholders that you are dealing with.
Very,
Am I
very
right?
true. No, very true. In fact, just to add to it, I wish if all the entrepreneurs understand that it is not a new way of doing it, it is the way of doing it. There is no other way any product in the market can sustain their success. They might become an instant success. So, we have a mobile app. We have not even released it. See, there is a timing for everything. But if we want, we can release that today and I can put some money, get a million customers onto it somehow. That doesn't define success for an entrepreneurship, for any startup for that matter. People believe success as these numbers. The numbers games are no more going to work out, is what we feel. We strongly believe that if you don't understand who your community, then you are not building solution for anyone in the world. You're simply trying your passion out for yourself, and that's it. It will die out within your four walls where you're building it. So though I am a technologist, I never, our technology solution was implemented on 1st of March 2019. I started my venture on 4th of June 2017. So you can imagine 2 years of community building, understanding the pain, making sure that what I build is going to really be of use for them without investing money and honestly wasting a lot of money. How many entrepreneurs can actually go with this larger perspective and be in that realm, through all the struggles? Because, see, 3 years we have been in the system, we have not started making money until the first 2 years went out. 2 years we were investing ourselves in all respect. But how many people can sustain that? And many people get spoiled by funding itself. Funding by itself spoils a lot of startups, untimely funding. But unfortunately, yes, I completely agree with you that there is no structured teaching for the entrepreneurs. It's little off our thing, but since you have put it up, I wanted to give one piece of advice to all my younger entrepreneurs, all the senior entrepreneurs we look upon to, all the younger entrepreneurs, that it's not the money, it's not the funding that makes your venture a success. It is the simple fact that the mission that you are running, is it a part of your life to start with? Can you imagine yourself with your mission at any point of time? If you can, probably you need to tweak your mission a bit, but if you can, then people will start following you, because people don't follow a person. People follow a mission. If you are up to a mission, you will invite masses. If you are up to something very small, then few people might follow you because they like you individually. So advice is, yes, go with a mission which people can take forward, people can imbibe, people can take it forward further from there, extrapolate it, and then make a huge impact across the society, cross sections. That's what we are doing with our community. Today, if you see, there are about 20 trainers who is working every week. We meet up, none of us are paid. Can you imagine that? They are our hands and legs. They know that when we become big, it's going to happen eventually. But out of passion, because they've been seeing Scoopin for last 3 years, and they know how much we both are, owning this particular idea, people start owning the idea along with us. Now we are growing as a community. So that's our scalability model. There is no other. Technology is again an enabler. Then coming back to your question on how do we survive, what is our business model? Ours is a subscription model. For first set of customers for us is the trainers themselves. We don't take a cut from the business that they make. That's not our business. Whether they make 1 rupee or 1 crore, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Market Connect is what we are supposed to do. We are doing that. But we are giving technology services for the trainers, especially maintaining their website, okay, and also giving the TTTs, the trainer programs, which are all expensive affairs. For that, we charge a very nominal amount. While a trainer is required to spend 20,000 minimum month on month to market himself and be relevant in the industry. Once they have a website, they don't need to spend more than 1,000 rupees with us. So we bring it down that, small 0.5% is what we are, or 5% of otherwise spent is what we are asking and telling that, okay, you just subscribe to us at a small amount. How we are able to manage it, because it's a technology platform. We don't have, it's a scalable model, right? Just because 500 trainers gets added, our cost is not getting increased other than maintaining the servers and things like that. So we are able to maintain it within the limits. So we are passing the 95% benefit back to trainers. 5% we are keeping it so that we can sustain and run as a proper organization. Yeah. That's a simple win-win model.
Great. So I am taking that important point that you said. In fact, one of the doyens of Indian newspaper industry, Mr. Ramnath Goenka, who started the Indian Express group, he coined the term Indian Express is not an industry, it's a mission. So that is why, despite all these competitions or struggles or whatever you can call in the industry, it is still surviving, and people still look forward to that brand to find the the right news. Whether it is anti-establishment or pro-industry or anti-industry, if they take a stand, they stick by it, because it is built on his philosophy that Indian Express is not an industry, it is a mission. So I also find the same sentiments echoed in your what you have said. I think Girish can quickly say something about in general before we conclude, because there's a lot of new insights have come. We wish we'll have more sessions maybe at a later date when you grow up. So Mr. Girish, would you like to?
Sure. Now this scenario post-COVID is something which is new for all the trainers, and which has made a complete dramatic shift in the way every trainer should actually conduct and behave themselves. Because so far, if you see about 10-15 years before, you had 10% of trainers who were good facilitators and the rest were normal teachers. But currently, before COVID, you had about 90% of trainers who were good facilitators, but only 10 of them were the normal teachers. But now the facilitation also is not going to help you in the digital world, because now people know that you need not be in front of the person. You can be remote everywhere, but still you need to conduct your sessions in that effective manner, even though nobody is there in front of you. So facilitation skills are not going to help you. You need some other skills. And that is what exactly our e-training course is equipping people. And you can sit in your home. What we say is, you have an idea, we will help you conduct it, make it into a course, and we will help you market it. That is, anybody sitting in their home can connect to the larger market. So that's where we are heading to, and that's where we made the change in the last 4 months. And I'm sure that the entire industry is going to go into this mode now. Sitting at your home, connect to the entire market, but do you have the skills? If you don't have, we are ready to equip you for that. And that's the simple mission of Scoopin as at present.
Great. I think when the MBA students and even engineering grads or any other people watch this interview, I think they will get a lot of insights from what you have spoken about, your mission, your philosophy, your revenue model, whatever that comes. So it was a very insightful session with you. I'm sure that this will be talked about or even shared a lot. In fact, it was also insightful for me, despite the fact that I have interacted with so many industrialists and management experts in my career as a journalist and also in a startup company. So it's great talking to you.